value in investigating the public's sightings. The implication to me, and this is common sense, is that if a pilot reports a UFO, or if a radar operator tracks an uncorrelated target, the chain of command will still be looking at that. It is simply that this will be happening outside of a formally constituted UFO project, and I'm sure that they will deliberately carry on the policy that we started of never using the phrase UFO again, but replacing it with UAP or unusual aircraft. One other reason why they terminated the project, and this is ironic, is that the numbers of sightings being reported to the Ministry of Defense had been rising and were at near record levels. But the problem was that the quality of most of these reports was very poor. A lot of people were seeing and reporting Chinese lanterns, fire balloons, these little miniature hot air balloons that are very popular in our country at the moment. I don't know if they're popular here in Chile, but they are let off at parties, weddings, barbecues, and hundreds of reports of these things. And the Ministry of Defense was being inundated with this and couldn't hope to investigate any of these in a meaningful way. So, for all these reasons, the UFO project was terminated. I think it's a mistake. I do understand the reasons, but I think it's patronizing to say that we'll only look at reports from pilots or radar operators, because actually, if you look at the Ministry of Defense archives, some of the most interesting UFO reports over the years do come from the public. So I think what's needed is a way of looking at everything, but having a very quick way, and again I think General Bermudez's methodology looked at this, of quickly filtering the reports so that the ones that are very obviously just aircraft lights or Chinese lanterns, you don't waste any time investigating at all. But that is the current situation. I have, I believe, 10 minutes left, and in those 10 minutes I would like to cover a very recent story that I was not scheduled to discuss here, but I think it's so interesting I would like to share it with you. In January of this year, the Royal Society held a 2-day discussion meeting. Now, the Royal Society is probably the most prestigious scientific body anywhere in the world, I would say. It's in its 350th year, it's their anniversary. Previous members include Charles Darwin, Sir Isaac Newton, Albert Einstein. More recent members include Stephen Hawking. So this is a prestigious body, and this 2-day discussion meeting was entitled, I'll give you the title and see what you think. The Detection of Extraterrestrial Life and the Consequences for Science and Society. What happened was that over 2 days, an international group, a multidisciplinary group, of astronomers, physicists, chemists, biologists, but also social scientists, anthropologists, and theologians came together to discuss what the implications would be. Now, some people gave very scientific talks about complicated molecular chemistry in interstellar gas clouds. I couldn't understand much of that. Some people were talking about microbial life, perhaps on Mars. But other people were speculating about a much more meaningful encounter, perhaps picking up a signal from other civilizations using radio telescopes, or maybe even encountering another civilization on a face-to-face basis. And the sorts of questions being asked at this conference were, what would this do in terms of the public? Would there be panic in the streets? What would it do to people's religious beliefs? And I think it is inconceivable that a few years ago the Royal Society would have hosted such a conference. They didn't advertise it for public attendance, but neither was it a secret. Most of the attendees were scientists. I was there because I now work, among other things, as a freelance journalist, so I covered this for some of the media. One of the people who chaired some of the sessions was Lord Martin Rees. He is our Astronomer Royal. So again, you have senior scientists and parts of the British establishment, and indeed the international establishment, actively involved in this. Sir Martin Rees looked a little nervous at one or two points. He was very careful to stress, this is not a UFO conference. But it was interesting that when the formal sessions finished, and in the coffee breaks, some of the attendees and even some of the speakers were prepared to be a little bit more forthcoming about UFOs than in fact they had been in the formal sessions. So that was interesting. NASA sent representatives. The European Space Agency sent representatives. The United Nations Office for Space Affairs sent a representative, and indeed she gave one of the presentations. Albert Harrison from University of California gave an interesting talk. He's a social scientist. He had done a lot of opinion polls and research, and he said he didn't think there would be panic in the streets. And it's interesting, he gave the example of in 1996 when NASA made the announcement that they thought they had discovered evidence of fossilized microbial life on Mars in a meteorite. He said this made a lot of newspaper headlines. President Clinton gave a nice speech.